doing, and how old are they now?
Well, thanks for asking, Chip. And the girls are doing really well. I think they have their daddy's indomitable spirit and passion for life, and they're doing quite well. And the twins are now 12, but they have their birthday this week. They'll be 13, and our little one is 7 now.
You and I spoke a little earlier today, and you mentioned a bittersweet moment when one of your daughters saw David on MSNBC. Could you share that with us?
That's right. Well, as life would have it, 4 years later, here we are in Florida, and 4 years ago when the war began, we were at David's parents' in Naples, Florida, watching this very coverage when David was first there covering the war. And then this morning, we saw some of your recaps this morning on the news, and I was in the other room, and my daughter, Ava, who's now 7, hollered out to me across the room, "Mommy, Mommy, Daddy's on TV." So kind of a bittersweet moment. You know, I rushed in, and we watched some of the footage that you showed this morning. And it was very touching because it really brought back a flood of memories from 4 years ago when we were so proud and watching him do this great work from the desert. You know, and then to see it 4 years later, and he's not with us here in Florida, so bittersweet.
4 years ago, when I got the horrible news, I was not very far from him on the way to Baghdad, and I said it then and I'll say it again, I went into this war on his shoulders. I was a late ad as an embed, and David showed me the ropes. He gave me his briefing book, which was about 4 inches thick. He demanded that I buy, with NBC dollars, some very expensive boots that are supposed to protect you from landmines. He gave me all his sources. He put me on the phone with him. I could not have done it without him. It's as simple as that. And it was that enthusiasm for the story, for getting the story, not just getting it himself, that I saw everywhere. Can you give an idea of he created the Bloom? He did everything but rivet the Bloommobile together. It was his idea.
I think he might have riveted it too.
He may well have. I mean, he took us to the shop to watch the work on it as they were welding it and putting it together. From your point of view, can you give us a sense of the passion and enthusiasm he put into this and why he was so devoted to covering the war in this new way?
Well, passion and enthusiasm are the perfect descriptive words because that's how he approached everything he did in life. And he just attacked this. I know the book you're referring to. It's about 600 pages thick, and I have it at home now. And, I mean, he researched everything, just exhaustive research. He was on the phone all the time, and I'm sure on the Internet, he literally called the Goodyear people to get the actual tires that he needed made and had them specifically made for that Bloommobile. You know, that was his baby, and that was really his technologically innovative way and approach to covering the war in this generation. And I think, you know, he succeeded. And I know that, you know, he did lose his life covering the war in Iraq, but he felt that it was so very important to tell the soldier's story and to bring the realities of war home to the American people live as it unfolded, and not just via the grainy, the night vision goggles, right, and really bring it live while it was happening. So, it worked, and we weren't sure that it would. And I know we were all, like I mentioned, in Florida watching when he first appeared on the screen, and he just filled the screen,
yes,
wind whipping in the hair, and he called right after that on the satellite connection and said, "Did you see it? Did you see it? How was it?" And it was just a wonderful moment because, he brought it to life. And then he did great work in terms of sharing with the American people what these soldiers and the troops are really going through over there and what the reality of war is like.
You are now a spokesperson for the Coalition to Prevent Deep Vein Thrombosis. What is it exactly, and what do people need to know about it?
Right. Well, that's the irony, because we have braced ourselves, as I'm sure you did when you embedded, with the realities of what could happen out there on the front lines of the battlefield. But we certainly didn't prepare ourselves for something within David's own body to take his life. And essentially, deep vein thrombosis is a blood clot, as you mentioned, that forms in the lower legs, and in David's case, broke free, traveled to the lungs, and became a pulmonary embolism, or PE, and it took his life. And I've often described it as the bomb that laid within his own body, because it wasn't, a war-related incident that took his life. And what I learned after the fact, I thought it was just a rare freak occurrence, but what I learned is 300,000 Americans each year lose their life to DVT. And that's a staggering number, more than AIDS and breast cancer combined.
Wow.
And David was one of those 300,000. But I had never heard of it, and to my knowledge, David had never heard of it. So I've been working with the Coalition to Prevent DVT to try to raise awareness, because we truly believe David's death could have been prevented, at least from DVT. And so if we can reach people and let them know about the warning signs and symptoms and risk factors, then hopefully prevent another family from enduring this same kind of tragedy.
Wow. Well, thank you for doing that important work.
Thank you,
Melanie
Chip.
Bloom, thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Chip.
Thank you. We'll be right back.